everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So, Germany or Canada? It's not an easy question, but in this video we will be helping you decide whether you should start your next full-time job in Germany or in Canada. We will be discussing different aspects like how is the work environment in Canada and in Germany, what are the pay ranges, and many other questions related to your full-time job. We will also be discussing whether it is easy to apply from Germany or to apply from Pakistan, which option is easier, and how many types of these procedures, like how can we apply. To discuss all of these questions, we have a very special guest. Yes, she is special because she inspires me a lot, and I'm sure she is inspiring many other young girls out there. So her name is Sharmeen. She is basically from Lahore, and she has completed her master's from Germany. We basically studied in the same university. And then after graduating, she worked in Berlin as a software developer for a year and a half. And then she moved to Toronto, Canada. And right now in Canada, she is working as a tech lead. So hi Sharmeen, thank you so much for being here. Please help us through your experience. How do you usually compare these two countries, and how was your experience working as a software developer in both of the countries? So how would you help us decide which one is better? And was it easy, or did you face any kind of difficulties? So please.
Hi, today I'll be talking to you about my experience working in Germany and in Canada. In Germany, I worked in Berlin, and in Canada, I worked in Toronto. Now, my experience by no means covers the entire country. It only covers the cities that I worked in and the workplaces that I was in. Now, when you first start working in a country, the thing that you need to be most aware of is the visa requirements. In Germany, you start working with a work visa or a blue card. Both of those qualify you to be a temporary resident and allow you to travel to multiple Schengen states. In Canada, you can either start working with a work visa or directly become a permanent resident. Once you become a permanent resident, in about 4 years, you can actually become a citizen of the country as well. As a permanent resident, your status in the country is not tied to the job that you have, which is quite a plus to have. The next thing that I do want to talk about is the workplace culture. Now, in Germany, I noticed a high level of passion and involvement in the work that people were doing. In Toronto, I see a little bit more of a mellowness, and even though some people have passion, there's a bit of a variation in it. Now, another thing is that in Germany, working over hours is strictly frowned upon. So if, for example, you do need to work extra hours one day, they're going to make sure that you take the next day off. And that comes from legal repercussions of having your employees work too much. In Toronto, however, you will see that you may need to work out of office hours once in a month, or maybe a little bit more than that. And there aren't any legal repercussions to it. It's sort of just expected to be part of your job. Another thing to talk about is diversity. In Germany, you would definitely see diversity. In my company, of course, there were many nationalities, but they were mostly European nationalities. In Toronto, I see such a diverse background of people. There are people from all races, all countries. Now, that does affect your workplace culture in a way as well, because in Toronto, I feel that people are more aware of your culture and they try to be more inclusive. In Germany, they did try to be inclusive, but part of that is to know about the other person's culture. There isn't so much knowledge of a culture of, for example, someone from Pakistan in Germany as there is in Toronto. Now, that can actually make a bit of a difference when you feel more comfortable in your workplace. When people are ordering in, they will make sure to ask you whether you drink or not. They will make sure to ask you whether you want halal food, what your dietary restrictions are. And it doesn't just mean vegetarian or non-vegetarian. They do understand if you don't, for example, eat pork. And that's actually pretty nice to be asked about these things up front and not have to bring them up yourself. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is extremely important, which is your compensation and your pay structure. In Germany, of course, the pay is pretty good, but the taxes are also very high. Part of the pay structure is not just your pay, but also bonuses. So yes, in Germany, I got a bonus every year twice, and there was the regular government health insurance as well, and I felt that was pretty comfortable to live in. In Toronto, most software engineering companies will give you a little bit more than that. They will give you stock options or restricted stock units on top of a very good pay. A lot of companies will give you cash bonuses. Some companies will give you more stock options or RSUs as the bonus as well. Now, it doesn't stop there. In Toronto, on top of the government health insurance, your company will most probably give you a very comprehensive insurance as well. That may include any specialists. It includes naturopathy, homeopathy. It even includes travel insurance in my case, going to the masseuse, going to a chiropractor. So it's a little bit more comprehensive than it was in Germany. Another thing that Toronto companies will offer you is something called an RRSP match. RRSP is, so if you think about what your retirement fund looks like in Germany, part of your income goes towards your pension. And that happens in Toronto as well. But in Toronto, there's something more than that. It's the RRSP, which is your Registered Retirement Savings Plan. Now, that's basically a fund where you can put your money and it's going to be invested tax-free. If you take that money out, then of course you're going to be taxed on it based on your income for the year. Now, companies will match your contribution to your retirement fund. So say in my company, if I put in $100, they're going to match it with $45 more. So I end up with $145. And that's pretty good because your company is contributing towards your retirement goals. And long term, that really pays off. Now, these were the 3 things that I thought were most important to know if you're working in Germany or in Canada. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Sharmeen. That was indeed very detailed explanation. So my next question is, when you were moving from Germany to Canada, how easy was it for you? So did you face any complications, or what methods did you use? Or is there any kind of special document that I should be having with me right now in advance? So how easy was the process?
That's actually a very nice question. For me, it was very easy to come to Canada. The hardest part was just waiting for all the documents from Germany to be ready so that I could apply. Once I applied, it took me 4 months to have all my documents sent to me by the immigration services, and I was ready to fly. There are 2 different ways that you can go to Canada. One is through a work visa, and the second one is through a permanent residency. With a work visa, you need to apply for a job first, and you should have a proper job offer. That's actually really hard to do unless you apply to companies like Amazon, because most companies can't afford to bring in people from different countries. And there's such a great pool of candidates within the country itself that they rarely want to hire from outside. The second way, which I did, is permanent residence. With permanent residency, you're basically applying for immigration. The way to do it is through something called express entry. And the way that you can do it is in multiple different facets. So the one I did was federal skilled worker. If you go on their website, it's very easy to see what the different things are. I'll speak to the one that I did, which is federal skilled worker. So for that, the first thing you need to do is you identify the field that you're in. For me, it was software engineering. Then you want to calculate your points. There's something called a CRS score. Again, if you Google CRS score, it's probably going to be the first link that comes up, where you calculate the total points that you get. Your points depend on things like your English speaking skills, your educational qualifications. It has to do with whether you know somebody in Canada or not, how much job experience that you have. All of those are summed up, and then you get a score. Then there are draws almost every month, sometimes a couple of times a month, and the immigration services will basically pick the top scored candidates from the pool. And if you are one of the top scored candidates, they'll send you an invitation to apply. Once you get the invitation to apply, you simply need to prove that you have all the documentation to claim the score that you did. It takes about 6 months on average to get a response from them after you send them all the documentation. And that's it. It's pretty simple. If I were to make a suggestion on what you should do, you should definitely start with applying with a permanent residence and not try so hard for a work visa, because with a permanent residence, it's kind of easy to get all the documentation, and if you have the right score, then you could be in Canada this year. I will, of course, add that it doesn't quite matter whether you're applying from Pakistan or you're applying from Germany. It's the same process. It's as easy to apply from Pakistan as it is from Germany. The only thing that you need to remember is that when you apply, you do need a police certificate of any city that you have ever lived in. So, say that you lived in Pakistan for a while and then you moved to Germany, you need 2 police certificates. If you're always in Pakistan or Germany or whatever country you're in, you just need 1. Other than that, it's basically the same process. It doesn't really matter. They don't ask you much about which country you're residing in. There's 1 question on the form, but it doesn't really make a difference.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So that's it for this video. So, but if you have any further questions, you can write me through my social accounts. I have given my Facebook link and my Instagram account in the description. So if you have any questions, you can write me through my social pages or you can comment down here. And if you want more videos like this, subscribe. See you.